New tonight, controversy at the state capitol.
A satanic display is raising eyebrows, but the governor says he can't take it down. The group of Minnesota Satanists put up its first ever holiday display at the Capitol over the weekend. They say its members don't actually worship Satan or believe in Satan, but called the display a win for religious plurality. Republicans blame the governor for letting it go up. Representative Tom Emmer tweeted, "Is there anything Tim Walz won't do to insult Minnesotans?" Representative Pete Sauber said, "When you get a DFL trifecta, you get a satanic display at our state capitol. During the holidays, what a disgrace. Only in Walz's Minnesota."
This is the Nation's Conspire channel. Welcome to today's show. As you saw, the Satanists once again are putting up their holiday display in honor of Saturnalia. And of course, I'm going to cover this topic as I do every single year because there's a reason for this. We know that the mainstream media covers this to gaslight, to incite hatred, but there's really an agenda behind why the governments and the state capitals constantly allow all these things to go up. And of course, there's a reason that the Satanists do it. And it's not because they're trying to troll. And the government isn't allowing it to happen because they're letting somebody else express their religious freedom, because the Satanic Temple claims that they don't believe in God. They don't believe in the devil. They're just a bunch of people who care about people's rights. But what they're really in place for, what they've been put in place for, is to bring about the destruction of religious freedoms. Because remember, what they're trying to do, a New World Order, this AI governance, is a global communist government. And in communism, there are no such thing as religious freedoms. They have to wipe out religious freedoms because they have to wipe out religion in general. It has to be abolished. So what you're seeing is just like I talked about with cancel culture, everybody canceling each other out, right? Making you draw a line in the sand where you say, well, if we're going to have a nativity at the state capitol, then the Satanists are going to show up and they're going to say, we're going to put a Baphomet. Then the people have to decide. Well, if we're going to have a nativity, then we have to have this. And eventually it gets to a point where nobody has anything up anymore because they abolish religion. Nobody talks about what the Satanists really do, how Satanism is actually a practice of human sacrifice, and the things that Satanists actually do would have anybody who claims to be a Satanist thrown in jail in any other time period, except, of course, for now, because they've created so many psyops like the Satanic Panic, because we're supposed to take them at their word that they don't actually practice satanic rituals, and they want you to think that all the things that people like me talk about with satanic ritual abuse are actually not real, when in fact they are. So communist policies against religious activities, this, in any other governments, in communist governments, persecution, clergy were imprisoned, killed, or persecuted, church closures, religious education was removed from schools, which you already see here in America, but they're trying to bring it back in with Donald Trump. And of course, that's only to bring it back out and to overall remove it. Confiscation of religious property, ridicule, religion was ridiculed, which we see currently in our society constantly in the mainstream media. We obviously see how Hollywood betrays Christianity and Jesus Christ. And museums, churches, synagogues, and most were turned into museums of atheism. So year after year after year, the Satanists, wherever they can go, put these statues in place, usually places where there's some type of Christian display, even though the majority of Christians don't even understand Saturnalia or what this holiday is really based off of, which is not the birth of Jesus Christ. Nonetheless, the Satanic Temple decided this year in Minnesota that they were going to roll out the Phoenix Rising. And of course, there's a lot of symbolism to the Phoenix, right? The Phoenix Rising constantly gets used. It's constantly overlooked. But now that the Satanists are using it, maybe people should start waking up that the Phoenix Rising isn't just a display of empowerment. It represents a transformation. So what we know, according to the permit granted by the state of Minnesota, is that the display was set up last week. The display features a phoenix with a sigil of Baphomet, pentagram, as you can see above, the official symbol of the Church of Satan, and paper cranes hovering above the bird. And I love how they call it the pentagram, the official symbol of the Church of Satan. Same one used, by the way, by the Eastern Star in every single town in America and around the earth where the Eastern Star are located, and nobody says anything about that symbol, being that they use the same exact symbol, which is the upside down pentagram. So the Satanists go on to say that the display, quote, symbolizes rebirth, empowerment, and self-determination. The phoenix represents transformation and rising stronger from adversity, mirroring the poem's call for liberation and personal triumph. The paper crane symbolizes hope and wishes, reinforce the power of intention and renewal, which is witchcraft, power of intention. Together they inspire viewers to embrace their own strength, manifest their desires, and reclaim their agency. So they claim that they're not religious at all. All the wording in their statement that they put out, obviously, if you actually pay attention to what witches do with manifesting and power of intention, they're literally admitting to being witches, but of course we're supposed to take them at their word. They're not really witches. The pentagram doesn't mean they're witches or Satanists. We're supposed to take them at their word. And it's funny that in this picture on that news clip in Minnesota, you can see the phoenix rising in the middle of the hallway, and there's nothing else around it. I don't even see any Christmas tree, pagan tree, Saturday night tree. I don't see anything. I just see it literally in the middle of the hall. But the phoenix rising, I just covered this with the reopening of the Notre Dame Cathedral and how they replaced the rooster on top with a phoenix rising. They made sure that you knew it because every single news station got fed the same script, as they always do, from the Sinclair Broadcasting Group, and they wanted everybody out there to know that it's the phoenix rising. And of course, everybody out there applauded. All the Christians applaud because they have no idea about signs and symbols. They have no idea what they're actually even partaking in with these rituals, these mass rituals that the Catholic Church is putting on and other churches are putting on, right? So the phoenix, again, also we see it outside of the One World Trade Center, exactly where, obviously, the Twin Towers went down. You see what is called the Oculus, which is represented by a phoenix rising from the ashes. It is an occult symbol. So as I mentioned earlier, the Satanic Temple does this not to troll, not just to gaslight and anger Christians. This is to cancel out religious freedoms. So the line is drawn in the sand, right? So last year, you might remember, in Iowa, a man was charged with a hate crime for destroying a Baphomet statue. And of course, the controlled alt-right media applauded this and said it was great, and he was praised as a hero, which I'm not saying one way or the other that I'm not for the destruction of these false idols. I'm just telling you psychologically why these stories are out there and what they're trying to get you to feel, because there's always a goal at the end of the day. Problem, reaction, solution. And the goal is to remove religious freedoms. Well, this year, we had another Baphomet statue go up in New Hampshire. Yeah, the Satanic Temple put one up in New Hampshire, too, if you hadn't heard. And what happened to that one? Well, that one got destroyed as well.
Just because that we're not large in numbers doesn't mean our beliefs are less important than any of the other religions represented here.
Saturday night, the unveiling of the Satanic Temple's holiday display, depicting satanic figure Baphomet and the Satanic Temple's 7 fundamental tenets.
I approached them as a person who cares about equal representation on public grounds for religions.
State Rep Ellen Reed brought the idea of the display to the Satanic Temple after seeing other religious displays outside of the State House. The city says it feared the temple would threaten a lawsuit if the display was not permitted.
I oppose the permit because I believe the request was made not in the interest of promoting religious equity, but in order to drive an anti-religious political agenda.
The city continues to say that under the First Amendment, all religious displays need to be allowed or none at all. The mayor pledges to amend the city's policy by next holiday season.
The First Amendment doesn't mean anything unless we are actually making it work.
Reed says the display never mentioned another religion and was never meant to demean others. She was disappointed to see damage to the statue just hours after it was unveiled. Tuesday morning, she spent picking up the pieces after she says it was destroyed.
The reaction seems so emotional, so knee-jerk, that the idea that a mannequin in a goat mask would, create all of this animosity.
And Reed tells us she doesn't know if there's any plans to bring the display back, but she says the permit is good through the end of the year, and she hopes to see it back right in its spot there. As for the police investigation, police tell us they are not investigating this as a hate crime right now, but if evidence points to that, they will. We're live in Concord. Kelly O'Brien, WMUR News 9.
So the Baphomet statue gets destroyed again back to back years. And of course, this isn't something that I'm opposed to. I'm just explaining to you these stories, why they're out there, and they want what they want you to feel, right? They want people who are neutral to this to see this and say it's not fair. Of course, they're going to naturally side with the Satanic Temple because that's what the story is designed to do. To say these Christians are hateful, they're bigots. Why are they the only religion? Why are they the only ones that could express themselves? Nobody ever mentions or talks about what Satanists really do, what they really practice. They just go to the Satanic Temple's website and we're supposed to take their tenets as their word, and that's all that they actually believe. When if you actually look deeper into what they do and you actually see the connections even with Boys Town and the some of the people involved in the Satanic Temple, well, you'd start waking up to what it's really about. And this is something that constantly gets displayed as Christianity being bad, followers of Christ being bad, being angry, being zealots, saying that they're the only religion that matters. Nobody else can have religious freedom other than them. That's the mindset that they want out there. So if you don't remember, SatanCon occurred last year, and it's pretty amazing to me that these stories constantly get twisted where it's Christians who are destroying the Satanist property or satanic idols. But when this supposed atheist group that doesn't believe in anything has a SatanCon event, it's okay for them to rip up and shred the Bible and scream "Hail Satan," which is the funniest thing about all of the stuff with the Satanic Temple, is that whenever they do these events, anything that they do out in public, they all scream "Hail Satan," but they claim that they don't believe in Satan, that it's like a metaphor, like they're cosplaying, right? I mean, it's laughable. So they rip up the Bible, that's okay, right? Because they'll say, well, it's not private property. They bought it. But really what they're expressing is what we would call hate, right? This whole notion of hate law and hate crime, which is all there to strip us of our rights, it's pretty hypocritical in so many ways because all these things that we see where it's constant mockery and hatred toward Christianity never gets pointed out. And that's done by design. That's part of how the gaslighting works. But over the years, we've seen some of this atheist organization, the Satanic Temple, put displays out. We've seen, of course, everything referencing the Bible. For people who don't believe in the Bible, it's pretty amazing that they do things like the forbidden fruit, right, with the serpent wrapped around the hand and the forbidden fruit. We've seen, constantly. Those are references that they have. Is the forbidden fruit with the serpent, right? This is biblical in the Garden of Adam, the Garden of Eden. And we see also the baby Baphomet, which I covered a few years ago. And it's just funny to me that people actually think that this is like a giant cosplay, that these people just spend their weekends, they dress up, they wear cloaks, they think they're going to some type of Comic-Con event where it tells you the state of our world with all the chaos happening around us, adults behaving like children. You see these videos constantly trending on YouTube of, San Diego Comic-Con and all these 40-year-olds dressed up like Sonic the Hedgehog. And we're just so desensitized. We're supposed to think that this is normal. And these are parents. These are people who believe that they should have a say in society when they act like children. They're actually people who want to give children more power in choosing their gender, etc. So we're living in the upside down already. I mean, let's be real. But the other thing to note with the Satanists that I've covered over the years is that they have 3 main focuses. That's it. There's only 3 things you'll ever see the Satanists involved in. And it shows you what they really, truly believe in if you pay attention. They're always, always, always front and center supporting Planned Parenthood. Anywhere there's anything happening where there are people picketing against abortions, they'll be out front. They even do their satanic milk baptism baths outside anywhere where there's Christians protesting Planned Parenthood. So that's number 1, right? Number 2 is what they call the gray faction. If you're not familiar with the gray faction, this is a faction that the Satanic Temple created. Whenever there is some type of a get-together, some type of a conference where people who have been abused, victims of what is called satanic ritual abuse, which involves things that they won't let you talk about on YouTube, which I talk about on the website, have many videos over the years about the topic, the actual rituals that are involved that these Satanists do to children, right? So they have these meetings, these conferences where they all go and they talk to one another. It's therapeutic for them to talk about, make people aware to satanic ritual abuse. Well, the Satanic Temple shows up at these events and ridicules these people who have been involved in trafficking and many other things. It's called the Gray Faction. And the Gray Faction is an educational and advocacy organization whose mission is to protect mental health patients and their families from dangerous pseudoscience and discredited therapies, particularly in the area of so-called repressed memories, which is, has to do with trauma-based mind control, which is what a lot of these all of these children who are victims of satanic ritual abuse end up going through. So that's the other thing that they care about for people who don't believe in God and don't believe in the devil. They decide that they care about Planned Parenthood, which is human sacrifice. And then they care about anybody out there saying that Satanists are practicing satanic ritual abuse, right? That seems to bother them a lot. So they make sure they show up there and then they ridicule them. Just imagine it was the other way around. Imagine we were showing up at an event where it was people who were openly talking about castrating kids. And we were saying that they, our mission was mental health patients, that they're calling them mental health patients, right? Well, what would happen to us? Oh, we'd be arrested for saying that they have mental health problems when they want to cut off their kid's ding-a-ling, right? So it shows you the upside down that we're living, but it also shows you what the care is for the Satanic Temple. So Planned Parenthood, then you have anyone speaking against satanic, saying that they're victims of satanic ritual abuse. They want you to think that it's all make-believe and pseudo-science. And then, of course, the other thing is they're front and center every June, July, August, September, October, November, December, every month, because every month is Pride Month in America. They're front and center. They're front and center. And during their Pride festivals, of course, they have unbaptisms, where people are unbaptized. So anyone who was baptized can become unbaptized. So they openly continue to ridicule Christianity. So it's pretty funny to me that we constantly hear about Christians being bigots, Christians being zealots, but this is what the Satanic Temple stands for. But in today's world, all people need to do is hear these people. These people could literally be in the middle of a satanic ritual with blood in a bowl on a table with organs in it, okay? And they could go, no, we're not really Satanists, and they could start eating the heart. And they'd be like, oh, we're not Satanists, though. It's cosplay. And the people will go, oh, it's just cosplay, and take them at their word, because that's how dumb society has become. So another year, more satanic displays out in the open. We have Minnesota. We have New Hampshire. I'm sure there's other ones out there. And again, it's easy to get angry at this stuff. I often would get angry at this stuff over the years. I'm not desensitized to it. I'm not angry at seeing it. I just am trying to make you aware. You can feel however you want, aware of what the goal is here. The Satanic Temple is a 501c3, believe it or not. And they got exempt, they got literally put at the front of the line when they tried to file this. The government funds the Satanic Temple. Okay, none of these people work. Nobody knows how they make money. They'll claim they make money off merch. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous. But they make sure that they're front and center in doing these things all around the country because they're drawing the line in the sand. Like I said, they want you to choose. They want it to come down to, hey, Christians, you have to decide. If you want your 10 commandments up, then the Satanists are going to put their 7 tenets next to it. So then the Christians have to huddle together and decide, are we going to allow this to be there? What if some child walks up and decides that the 7 tenets of the Satanic Temple are more important to them, or they relate more to it than the 10 commandments? Now all of a sudden, someone's going to be converted to Satanism, and that's what they want. And they want you to go, fine, we'll remove the 10 commandments. We'll remove any nativity sets or anything that's, promoting Jesus Christ. Eventually, of course, this is another thing the Satanists have done. The cemeteries that have crosses, a lot of the military, they're against that as well. They're saying that that's not fair, that outside of these, these cemeteries where people come home from war, that they put a crucifix next to their grave or on top of their grave, and they want those removed. That's what this is about, okay? In communist society, there are no religious rights. Everything you see going on around you right now is about the changing over of infrastructure. And the only way to change it is to destroy it. So your government is working together, the Democrats and the Republicans, to sabotage. That's the simplest way to put it. They are sabotaging the infrastructure, making you want change where you wouldn't want change originally, making you feel a way you wouldn't feel unless, of course, they were putting stories out there to make you angry, make you feel a certain way, which is what they're doing by design. Problem, reaction, solution. Global communism, you got to destroy the infrastructure, which means global communism reigns supreme, which means the rule of the land that we all know has to change. And religious freedoms, even though these are small stories, remember, over time, these add up. That's what it does. I'm not saying that this, oh my goodness, this destroying of the Baphomet in New Hampshire is suddenly going to change religious freedom laws. No. Think about the stuff Trump's doing with putting Bibles in schools. This is all done by design. But the longer this goes on and the more psyops they create around it, the more change is eventually going to come, the more it sets in. Think about how many of these events have happened at schools over the last 30 years. Well, every time it happens doesn't mean that the next day they're going to change those, but eventually they are. Because the more they make it the new normal, the more people call for change, and that's what the government wants from the get-go is they want to change. They want to take away more of our freedoms and more of our rights. And they have to make you agree with it. And that's what they're doing. So the Satanic Temple, we got one in Minnesota. We got one destroyed in New Hampshire, which again got put back up apparently. And it's the same story every single year. It's the same story by design. Don't fall for their psychological operations. These are all global communists. And all global communists want to do is create infighting, and they want everybody to strip each other of their rights. Cancel culture is a byproduct of that, which I talked about so thoroughly over the years when it started, right? I told everybody out there, do not call for people who are censoring you. Don't call for them to be removed from the internet. Because once the conservatives start calling for the liberals to be canceled, then they have what they want. And that's what they did. They just kept canceling everybody like me, kept canceling conservative viewpoints, that eventually everybody got so angry because they were losing big channels, they were losing big followings, people were losing money, that they said, okay, now the tables have turned. Let's cancel them. And that's what your government wants. They want you to cancel everything out by design. It's called sabotage. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.